Evening, everyone. Welcome to Financial Aid Night. It's great to see all of you here this evening because financial aid is a very cumbersome process, and we have an expert here this evening to speak to you and help assist you through that financial aid process. I'm Donna Lembo, and I'm the Director of Guidance. And if you came in, I want to make sure everybody has a red folder. And also let you know that feel free to leave. There's refreshments right outside the door. Tonight, we are live streaming this event. So to those of you that are at home, we're on our homepage here, and you're not able to get a packet. But we posted tonight's presentation on the website so that if you have difficulty at home seeing this, you'll be able to see it from your computer screen. So those of you at home, if you go to the home page, you'll see it says under upcoming events, information. Click on that link, Financial Aid Night information, and you go all the way down to the bottom of the page, and it'll say presentation. So you can click on that link right there, and that'll lead you to a better view from home of the presentation tonight. We have two presenters tonight. The first presenter is Ms. Kristen Jacadine, and she wanted to present tonight because she wanted to give all the parents some quick tidbits on when you're looking at college websites, how to find quickly the financial aid and scholarship information you're going to need. Next, we're very excited to have Ms. Diane Cantelet, the Director of Financial Aid from SCCC. She does this every day, so she's going to give you the best information on the financial aid process. The financial aid process is changing, so even if, how many of you are parents of juniors here tonight? Please, please, please come back again next year. And I'm sure Diane will also tell you that as well, because it is changing and evolving lately. And tonight she will give you that information. So since we have so much information, I will now turn it over to Ms. Jacadine.
Hi everyone. I'm going to be brief because, you know, I'm not the main event. So we, as the guidance department, have all been meeting with all of the seniors. I think almost everybody has been met at this point. When we've talked to your students, we've told them about financial aid, we've told them about scholarships. I don't know how much of that information has been relayed to you. So it may have, it may not have. I just wanted to take a couple of minutes tonight just to point things out to you, so that way when you're looking for scholarships that are available to your students, you know where to find them, they know where to find them, but also just to take you quickly onto a financial aid webpage of a state college so you know how to navigate around that page. I always joke with my students about the college websites that I really don't like. And it's mostly because some of them are difficult to find information. And I don't know if you've experienced that, I'm sure you have, but there's nothing more frustrating when you're looking for something and you don't know where to click because it's just not obvious to you. So financial aid and applying for scholarships and using the FAFSA or the CSS profile is an additional step to the overall college process. And it can be very frustrating and overwhelming. So it's our hope that tonight will kind of ease some of that for you. I'm going to start with, in your red folders, there's a packet that has financial aid and tidbits. So on there is just kind of a listing of different things for you to know when you're looking, if you're a four-year college student and you're looking at a financial aid webpage. A lot of times you'll find it under admissions if it's not its own link. On there you'll find specific deadlines for the FAFSA and the CSS profile. I'll get to that in a second. You want to check the financial aid webpage of the colleges you're applying to for any specific scholarships that they may offer. And then for 2-year, 4-year technical schools, the FAFSA still applies, so that's important to know. And also, what I'm going to show you right now is a listing of the scholarships that we receive information on in our office that students should be checking out, but I'm going to show you where it is. The seniors in the room and the juniors, do we have any junior students in the room? Are they all? Yes. So, you all should be familiar with Naviance, yes? We know what it is. Naviance is the system that we use in the guidance department to submit transcripts and letters of recommendation to the colleges that our students are applying to. The sophomores this week are being reintroduced to Naviance. They're using a little bit of a different program. The juniors, you will get your turn in the spring again. Aren't you excited? And the seniors have certainly been hearing about it since the end of last year and going in through this year. So if you log on to your Naviance account, you're going to go to the main page. Let's get out of here. Yeah. So when the students log in, that's the page that they come to. I just pulled up a junior, but it doesn't matter. So that's the main page, and on that main page you're going to have just different emails and information that my coworkers and I post there for you. So you should be checking your Naviance account on a regular basis because you never quite know what's going to show up there. For the scholarships, you're going to go under the college tab and scroll down to the bottom where there's a list for scholarship list. And on there you will see the information of the scholarships that we currently have in our office. So this right now, the listing is primarily scholarships that are offered nationally. This list, as the year goes on, will continue to grow. And I can tell you that the majority of the local scholarships will start coming in around December, January, and then go into the spring of next year. For the junior parents here, most of these scholarships are for seniors. There are some that are for juniors, so you can certainly look, but the majority tend to be seniors. So you certainly want to check them out. Some of them are related to majors, some of them are community service oriented, some of them are, if you're going to this school, here's a scholarship for you. So they all vary. If you click on any one of them, if you click on the first one, there's usually a website that gives you the information about the scholarship and the directions on how to fill it out. Most of these in here do not come to us in guidance. So we get the information, we can answer basic questions for you, but the majority of them are going to be filled out and submitted to whomever the scholarship donor is, okay? Some of the local ones will tell the students to hand stuff into us, but there are very few of those that will be posted on this list. Okay, so these here are national, eventually they'll come to the state level and local that are posted on Naviance, and they're updated. The other scholarship that you'll need to be aware of for seniors is the local scholarship application. So Tim knows this because he and I spoke about this not too long ago. The local scholarship application will be handed out by the guidance department in January, so it is not available yet. It's a scholarship application that's completed online, printed out, and submitted to the guidance office. That application is reviewed by area organizations that give our seniors scholarship money. Okay, and those vary on all different levels from all different places. So seniors, usually we have a homeroom meeting when the scholarship application is available. You'll get information. It is typed and printed out and handed to us. Okay, not handwritten, not written in pencil, not written in pen. It's all stuff that's done online. Usually your English teachers will give you a day in the computer lab where you can fill it out, but you can certainly fill it out on your own as well. So, scholarships on Naviance is one thing, the scholarship application is something else. When we go into a financial aid webpage, I'm taking you to Ramapo's site, because their financial aid webpage is fairly comprehensive. What I like about it is everything is easy to see. Some schools you click, and then you click, and then you click, and then maybe 5 pages in you might find what you're looking for. I don't know about you, but it's a little frustrating. So Ramapo's is pretty neat. When you go onto a financial aid webpage of a college, the important things that you're looking for, FAFSA, as of right now, is available and is filed after January 1st. It's important that you get that done as soon as you possibly can. Some colleges will require you to have that FAFSA form submitted by a certain deadline. And that's what you're going to want to go to the college website for. You know the form is available after January 1st, but what you may not know is one school might want it in by February 15th because that's when they're giving out their aid money. It needs to be submitted by that day so they can evaluate it to determine if you are eligible for scholarships from the college. So it's important to keep track of that, and you're going to find it on here. Some may not tell you. It's still better off, especially when you're dealing with the state schools, to get your forms submitted sooner rather than later. So there'll be information about FAFSA, where to go, how to fill it out, deadlines. Ramapo, to my knowledge, does not have a specific deadline. They might just say, suggested to be in by this time. The financial webpage, which Ramapo does not require, but there's also a thing called the CSS profile. I can tell you in New Jersey, Stevens is a school that requires the FAFSA as well as the CSS. Not all schools will ask for that second one. So this financial aid webpage is where you go to look to see if it's required, and that will also, a lot of times, have a different deadline. If you don't see it there, don't worry about it. It just means that your college doesn't require it, therefore you don't need to do it. Okay? The other thing that you'll find on a financial aid webpage is here you go. Here's the calendar for Ramapo. They have nice contact information. You don't always have that on a financial aid webpage. Sometimes the financial aid officers don't like to talk to people. So my suggestion with that is if you have questions, you get on the phone and call them. And if you're on campus, you just drop in for a nice little visit and speak and ask to speak with the financial aid officer in the office, not the person who's at the front desk. Because a lot of times that's a student and they're not going to be able to answer your questions. Where is it? Ramapo is out of the state schools, has a nice amount of scholarships that are available to their students. So this is the final part of my little conversation for you. We have scholarships that are coming from different locations. Naviance, local, college. Some of the colleges will list scholarships that they offer their students. Now this is where it becomes a little confusing because some will tell you they'll only use the admissions application and they'll evaluate your scholarship potential from that. Some will require separate applications that will come off the financial aid webpage. So when you're looking at schools, that's something that you want to check out. Look on the financial aid webpage, look for scholarships, see what they offer. Sometimes they'll use your admissions application to consider you for scholarships, but they'll tell you you need to apply by a certain date in order to be eligible for them. And if you apply after that date, you are out of the running for scholarships. So it's an important website to look and to keep track of. The more schools you apply to, the more websites you're checking out, because I can tell you none of them are going to do the same thing, which just makes this that much more fun, because, you know, we gotta make it complicated and confusing, right? So when you're on there, you can see scholarships for incoming students is for Ramapo. That would be an incoming freshman. And they'll list what they offer. Some of them on their site are major related. Some of them are just, if you look at the presidential scholarship, a lot of that is merit based. So they're looking at a grade point average and SAT scores. Sometimes the other thing to look at real quick, and then I'm wrapping up, is when you're looking at a college and you're looking at information that's available to you as an incoming student, you want to check out, well, what happens when I'm returning? I'm a returning student. Because then, a lot of times, there's more money that's offered to you or available to you as a returning student at that school. And a question to ask the financial aid office is, whatever money you receive as an incoming student, is it something they guarantee as a returning student? How does it change? Financial aid is a year-by-year thing. Tuition changes, fees change, the application process, which you're going to learn in a moment, changes with the FAFSA. You want to know, what does the college give you as a returning student? It's an important question to ask because, as I said, they all do something different, which makes it complicated and confusing, but when you're making your decisions, that financial piece is a critical role that you want to pay attention to. Any questions? Yeah.
On the NOBS account, do you know how our students have their login? Because I don't know how to
On the Naviance account, unless they changed it themselves, we set them up. They go into Naviance.com, you pick students and family, put in High Point zip code, hit High Point, it brings you to the login page. The user ID is generally the first part of their email, their school email. So first initial, first name, last name, and then the year they're graduating. So for the seniors, it would be 6. For the juniors in the room, it would be 7. And then their password is generally their first initial and last initial, their first initial, their first name, and their first initial and their last name, and their student ID number. If that does not work, tell them to contact their guidance counselor, because they may have changed it to something that we don't know about. But when we set it up, that's how we do it, so it's standardized and we know. The one thing you should know, and it's a little bit of a crazy thing, but every single website you log into, Naviance, College Board, your college application site, on the college page itself, and there's the Common App site. Every single one has a username, every single one has a password. Some of my students are very good about keeping this information in their cell phones. Some of them are not so good at that. Naviance is something that we have access to, so if you lose your password or it doesn't work, you can always come to guidance and we can reset it for you. Once you step outside of the little guidance worlds and you're on a college webpage, or you're on your Common App page, or on your College Board, or your ACT board, we can't help you. Because that's not something we set up, it's not something we have access to. I can tell you how to get in touch with the people who can help you reset your account, but unless you've given it to me, I don't know it, and neither do my coworkers. I can tell you I do have some seniors that I set the account up with them, and I've kept track of their information, because I know that they're going to lose it at one point in time, or they're going to forget, because they just have so many different websites that they're logging into. Anything else? Excellent. Enjoy the rest of your night. Thanks for listening.
Well, good evening, everybody. We're all here. Okay. What we are going to try to do tonight is to give you some general information about financial aid. It is not the most exciting topic, and many times it's boring, but we're going to try to give you information that's going to keep you awake and give you some ideas to where you need to go so that you can have the most financial aid available for your student. tell you that everyone in this room, to take a little pressure off, every student can get a minimum of $5,500 in a student loan, and that would be enough for them to go full-time at a county college if they're taking 12 credits per semester. Okay? The only way you're going to find out if you are eligible for additional aid is to file. I can't tell you enough. Even if you think, oh, we have plans already, we've got money saved, we can afford to put them through college, you should all file for financial aid at least the first year to see where you stand in terms of eligibility. Basic requirements: student must have a social security number. You must be enrolled in a degree program. In other words, you can't just be enrolling, taking a basket weaving class here and a gym class there. You must be in some type of degree program in an eligible program of study. You must be a U.S. citizen or a permanent resident. If you are male, sorry guys, you must register with the Selective Service. It is something that was started back in the 80s. You're basically registering for nothing because there is no draft. You cannot be drafted to the Army, but you must still register for Selective Service in order to be considered for financial aid. You must have a high school diploma or a GED. And once you are receiving aid, and the parents always like this part, you must be making satisfactory academic progress, meaning that you must attain a minimum grade point average and complete a minimum amount of credits to keep your aid. To get started, new for this year as well, you must each have what they call an FSA user ID and password. Now, what that is simply, as for all the other websites, a log-on with a password. The student must have one that is attached to their email account, whatever one they're going to put on the FAFSA, and one of the parents, if there's a two-parent household, must have a user ID and password with their own email address. You cannot use the same email address for both of these. This was done because of all the security breaches. They used to use a 4-digit PIN number. For any of you who might have done it for prior students in the past. But now the user ID is supposed to be more secure, and you don't have to use your social security number and everything once it's set up. Okay? It's going to ask you, when you complete this, to create the user ID, the password. It's going to ask you to complete and answer 2 challenge questions. It's going to ask you to create 2 challenge questions, so you can think about this tonight. And it's also going to ask you for a significant date in your life other than your birthday. Now, the reason for that is if you have any errors, you jam yourself up, you lock yourself out of the system, and you call the Federal Department of Education, they figure that that significant date in your life is going to allow them to identify exactly who you are. Okay? And please, as I go along, if you do have questions, stop me. I prefer to answer the questions while we're on the topic. Okay? The FSA ID is going to allow you to sign that FAFSA electronically. It allows you to make corrections on your FAFSA if you need to go back on to correct something that you did. It will allow you to access that student aid report that you're going to get, and you're going to have to get used to a lot of acronyms in financial aid. There's a lot of abbreviations, SAR, SEN. You're going to hear about all of them. You're going to be able to sign your master promissory note for student loans and for parents who are taking PLUS loans as well. And once you do borrow on student loans, it allows you to get into the National Student Loan Database so that you can look up information on the total amount you borrowed, your repayment schedule, who's servicing your loans, and how you would make payments. This is just to show you a little bit the different steps that are there to create the FSA ID. I strongly urge that as you do it, take your time. Write things down. Keep copies. As you go through the website, you can actually, it allows you to click on so that you show the text that you're typing. Do that and print off the pages. If you haven't done it yet, these red folders that you have are wonderful. Keep them so that you can keep all this information together. And as the years go on, you may have to move it into a ring binder, but keep everything together so that you have it. This is what the website looks like. www.fafsa.gov. Never, ever, ever go to FAFSA.com. If you do, you will pay approximately $85 for processing what is the free application for federal student aid. So always go to .gov, and this is what it would look like. When to file, we talked about it a little bit already. Anytime after January 1, and as was already told to you, you want to look at all the school websites that you're applying to. Make yourself a chart. Students, you're great with all these programs with Excel. Do an Excel spreadsheet. Mark down all the ones, because you want to file that FAFSA by the earliest deadline that you have between all your schools. As we mentioned, some of them are as early as February. You want to get them in. Why? Because you can file for financial aid actually anytime during the school year and get federal aid if you qualify. But if they have their own funding, they get to make their own rules. So you want to get your application in as early as possible to make sure you are considered for all types of financial aid. If they have scholarships, if you have high need, right with you, you want to make sure that application is in. If you wait until, say, July, you could have full financial need. Your FAFSA may say family cannot contribute $1 single to your education. But if you wait until July to file, by then, if they've been packaging since February, because you are all the golden fleece, the school wants to get you into their school. So they're going to review incoming freshmen first. If you wait till July to file, you may have all this financial need, but they may be out of money. And then you may only be getting standard aid, which may not cover all your tuition and fees. Someone had a question.
When you're applying for the FAFSA, do you need to know where you're applying to, or is this just one form that will eventually change?
The question is, when you file the FAFSA, do you need to know where you're applying to before you fill it out? You should know which schools that you are applying to, and you send a copy. It doesn't mean that you've been accepted yet. You can get them in earlier, but they most likely will not review your file until they have at least admitted you. You don't have to accept them, but they have to accept you in order for them to process your aid. Okay? So you're going to do this as soon after January 1st as you can, again, before the earliest deadline you have between all your schools. And if you're applying to different schools, you're applying maybe to Penn State, you're thinking about University of Florida, you're thinking about William-Patterson College. When you fill it out and you list your schools, if you can, what you want to do is to list the most expensive New Jersey school you have on the list first. Now, the reason I tell you to do this is because this application goes to a number of places. The FAFSA gets processed. It gets matched with Social Security. It gets matched with Selective Service. It will go to all the schools that you listed. It also goes to New Jersey Higher Education Student Assistance Authority, which is our state Department of Education and looks at their eligibility for state aid. They assume that the first school you list on the form is your first choice school. Now, students may think, well, I want to go to Penn State, and parents are thinking, I don't know if we can afford Penn State. So you want to, when you fill this form out, you want to make sure that you're getting as much help as you can and get a good picture as to what you're eligible for. So if you're looking at a multiple list of schools, you want to have the most expensive New Jersey school first, because this will give you an idea how much extra aid will you get from the state of New Jersey if I go to this school. Okay? If you list University of Florida first, all you're going to get from the state of New Jersey is that you do not qualify because you're going to an out-of-state school. And point blank, it comes down many times to the money. Which school can we afford to send our son or daughter to? So you want to get a good picture of that. So that's why I recommend list that school first. Okay? For New Jersey state aid, let's say that all the schools you're applying to really have no deadlines. You can apply anytime during the school year. You, however, for New Jersey state aid for your first year, must apply by October 1st of 2016 for the 16-17 school year in order to be considered for tuition aid grant NJ Stars, all of their state programs for New Jersey. Private scholarships that we've talked about, you want to look at their deadlines, and you look at the schools for the individual ones. Now, most likely 99% of the students in this room are what we call dependent students. They are dependent upon their parents, they are under the age of 24, and the government feels that up until the age of 24 you are responsible for your student. And they must provide parental information on the FAFSA. However, there are circumstances when that would not be true and they would be independent. If, as I said, they were born before January 1, 1993. Are they married? At the beginning of the school year, this one would not apply because none of your students, they may be thinking in the future going for a master's or a doctorate, but they are not at this point. Do they have children that they are supporting? By that we mean the school is going to look, if they have a child, do they have enough income to support themselves and the child? If they're living at home with you and you as grandparents are raising that child, paying for that child, supporting and maybe declaring that grandchild on your tax returns, then they are not independent, your student. They would still be dependent because you are supporting the grandchild. Sometimes there are situations where both parents are deceased and maybe the student has a younger brother or sister that they're responsible for. That could possibly be another situation. If they're in the armed forces, at any time since turning age 13, both parents were deceased, or they were in foster care or ward of the court. Emancipated minors, there is no such thing in New Jersey. Emancipation in New Jersey is simply for the purpose of not having to pay child support anymore. A student cannot claim that they're emancipated and become an independent student. If they are, were they in a legal guardianship? Okay? Legal guardianship is very different from custody if we have anyone in those situations. Legal guardianship, you would be independent. Legal custody requires something called a dependency override. That is a request that you would have to make to the school that you're attending. You would have to document it. You would need things like a letter from the high school guidance counselor that knows the situation as to why the student's not with the parents. It may be police reports. They would have to provide all this documentation, and then it is up to the individual schools to determine if they will consider them a dependency override and make them independent. If they are homeless, there is a whole procedure. Each school will give you different forms or different information as to what you need to supply. But for the most part, all the students are dependent and will have to provide parental information. If you cannot answer yes to one of those questions, you are dependent. Okay? Any questions about dependency status? Nothing? Good. When you're ready to do the FAFSA, you want to gather all your information. Social Security card. You want to fill out the FAFSA with your name exactly the way it appears on your Social Security card. If your name is Robert, but you fill out Bob on the FAFSA, when it matches with the Social Security Administration, it's going to say it doesn't have a match. And then you're going to be required to provide documentation to the school to prove who you are. Your 2015 W-2 forms and tax returns. Now, if you don't file your tax returns early, and you need to get, say, your application in by March 15th for one of your schools, you can estimate using your 2014 and then go back into the FAFSA at a later date and update the information. Any type of untaxed income you have, Social Security, disability, unemployment, any of those records you want to bring. Your current bank statements, because they are going to ask you for your bank account balances, any kind of investments that you have. And if you're a permanent resident, you need your alien registration card because they'll want your number. You cannot get financial aid unless this FAFSA is complete, so you want to make sure that everything is together. Have all the information necessary that you need when you file the FAFSA. If you can, if you don't have early dates, the best way to do the FAFSA is to complete your tax return, wait until it's about 3 weeks that you've sent it in electronically, and then go on to FAFSA to complete it. The reason being that a number of years ago, the government created a link with the IRS, and you can now do something called the IRS data retrieval. And this is great, because the most difficult part of the FAFSA is filling in all the income questions. But now it enables you, if you filed your tax return at least 3 weeks prior electronically or 10 weeks by paper, to go out onto the website, link with the IRS, and it will magically bring all the answers in on your FAFSA in regards to all your income information. And that is the easiest way to do it. If you have to key it in, it's not so hard, but you can do that. You want to type your name and social security number exactly as it appears. Many times, one of the things we see is that parents will type in the student's social security number, and then they'll put in the name incorrectly. Or if they have twins, I've seen that, where they will switch, and they'll put the wrong social security number with the wrong twin. You want to be careful of things like that. Go slow, and check your information before you hit the submit button. Some of the common mistakes, like I said, incorrect name, incorrect social security number, date of birth is incorrect. All these things are going to be matched. You want to be careful. Many times we will get parents who will fill out their income information, and then they'll go into the student section and they'll fill in the same exact income. And what does that make happen? It makes it look like you're rich. Okay? You have parents with a $60,000 income, and we have a student with a $60,000 income, and now they look like they can afford to pay for college. Number of people in the household. If grandma and grandpa have now moved in with you and you are supporting them, you can't count them in the household. If you have, which is very common these days, a 26-year-old who has completed college and cannot find a job, and they are back living at home with you, you can count them in the household if you are giving them more than 50% of their support. So remember, the more in the household, the better it is, because you'll look poorer. You have your money to stretch out over more people. Divorced, remarried households. This is always a bone of contention. If your parents are married and are still married and living together, you're filling out your FAFSA with that information. But if your parents divorced or are separated, you are going to fill out the FAFSA with the income from the parent that you last lived with. So if you live with mom, you're filling it out with mom's information. Dad's information does not get counted. The only exception to this would be if you're doing a CSS profile, then everybody's income counts. If you are divorced and now you are remarried, I don't care how good your prenuptial agreement is. I don't care if you had a team of lawyers that came up with this prenuptial agreement. If mom is remarried and that's who you're living with, you must include mom's information and the step-parent's information. Or if you're living with dad and dad is remarried, it must be dad and stepmom's information. Okay? Any questions on that? Okay. Yes?
What if it's joint custody?
If it's joint custody, you have to try to figure out who gives more support, who gives 51% support. And if it's split down the middle, the government regulations say then you have to use the income of the parent that is higher. Okay? Government's not going to let you get away cheap on that. Okay? Taxes paid versus taxes withheld. They may have taken $10,000 out of your paychecks over the course of the year. But if you got all your money back, then it's a zero taxes paid. So you want to be careful how much you put down there. Make sure you read from the right line. If you have no assets, don't leave it blank. It looks as if to a school or to the government that you're going to look up the answer. Zero is a number, so put in a zero. Make sure that you submit all your required signatures on the FAFSA, and you're signing that again electronically with that FSA user ID and password. Make sure you put the high school completion in there. That's very important that it matches to the school that you have completed your high school degree at. And be careful. Every year I get a handful of students who wonder why all their friends are getting financial aid award letters and they get nothing. And then they come in only to find out that we didn't get their FAFSA. And they say, but I did my FAFSA. I don't understand. Why don't you have it? We go back in on the website. We find, lo and behold, they saved it, but they never submitted it. You want to look for that confirmation page that you actually submit the FAFSA. And this is what the confirmation page is going to look like. Now, a number of years ago, the government decided to try to simplify the FAFSA. And they said, we're going to get rid of some of these questions that we really don't need. Well, that was great for the federal government, but all the state governments said, hey, wait, whoa, hold on. You're pulling back information that we need. That if we don't have and we don't collect, we are either going to have to offer a lot less students financial aid because we don't have enough money to cover all these people who would show eligible, or we'd have to so drastically reduce our awards it wouldn't be worth us giving them money. So they said, we need to answer these questions. So their solution to this was to come up with a link that gets you out to New Jersey's website so that you can answer these 6 or 8 additional questions. Well, they did it, and as you can see way up there next to that large orange arrow is a very tiny orange arrow. And it says, start your state application. I can't tell you how many people miss this. And then many times lose state aid because they don't respond to the notices that they get later on. When you get to this confirmation page, you want to make sure you click on Start Your State Application. It will take you out to New Jersey HESA's website where it will ask you to answer the additional questions. And they're simple questions, things like, do you have a New Jersey driver's license? And if so, what is it? That's meaning the student. It'll ask about untaxed and taxable Social Security, untaxed and taxable unemployment, and once you're done, it will take you back to this confirmation page. And on the confirmation page at the bottom right, you will see, it will tell you if you qualify for a federal Pell Grant, and it will tell you if you qualify for a federal direct student loan. You should get this confirmation page. If you don't, there's something you didn't complete correctly. Yes?
To that link, if you're not applying to any New Jersey college, you'll answer questions in that.
The question is, if you're not applying to any New Jersey colleges, should you not bother to do that link? I will tell you that over the course of 35 years I've been in financial aid, I can't tell you how many times I see students who they're all dying to get away from mom and dad. They're all running off to Colorado and Florida and Penn and all these different places. And then lo and behold, they get away and they find, you know what? I don't like being away. I want to come home. And they're transferring for their second semester. I strongly advise that you complete this information. You will get back from the state of New Jersey a notice that says you're not eligible because you're going to an out-of-state college. But should your son or daughter change their mind, should something happen that, you know, causes them that you have to have them come home and go to a New Jersey school, at least the process is in place. Then all you have to do is update the college choice and they will be able to tell you what you're eligible for. So I would say at least put it in place, have it secured just in case things do change. Okay? Once you file that FAFSA, you're going to get an email notification that it's been processed. They'll tell you they received it. They'll tell you your form is done. And if you don't get an email notification, in about 7 to 10 days, a little light bulb should go off that something may have happened. Every year, there's always 1 or 2 that just seems to disappear into cyberspace. So you want to make sure, keep track. If you don't get something in 7 to 10 days, go back on the website, double check, see if you didn't hit the submit button, see if something happened. You just want to check it. It's very rare, but I always tell students just to watch out for that. Also check too, sometimes the way you have your system set up, your emails can go to the junk or spam. You want to make sure, if you don't see it, double check those areas. Once you get it, Read through it. Double check to make sure there were no errors. Maybe, like I said earlier, you may have recorded your income for both you and your student. If you need to make a correction, go back in, make that correction at FAFSA.gov. CSS profile, as I mentioned earlier, some schools will require it. When you do it, many times, unlike the federal government, where if you live with mom and dad are divorced, they're going to want both incomes, many of the schools. If both mom and dad have remarried, they may take everybody's income. Schools, again, with their own money, have the right to call the shots. Once we have the FAFSA, it's going to match up. If you've at least been admitted, most schools are going to send you an estimated award letter, giving you an idea of what types of financial aid they're going to offer you. And that award letter is going to list various things. We always start with the best aid first, that being grants and scholarships, the free money. And then moving on down through institutional aid that they may be able to offer, federal direct loans, and then maybe any outside scholarships or any supplemental or alternative loans. How many students are here? Okay, good, we got a couple. Okay. The first thing they're going to offer you are the federal grants. The Pell Grant is the largest of the grant programs. The max this year was $5,775. That is as a full-time student. Now, one of the biggest fallacies that you're going to hear in financial aid is that you must be full-time in order to receive financial aid. That is not the case. A student can go part-time, and depending on how many credits they have will depend on how much financial aid they get. A federal Pell Grant can be as little as $710, where if you take only 3 credits a semester, if you qualify for the maximum eligibility, you could get that smaller amount. And then it goes up depending on how many credits you take. Federal SEOG grant is also offered to part-time and full-time students. It is a dollar amount that the schools are given. It is rare, you see that $4,000 max, that is the max under federal regulation that they can give you, but it is rare that many schools have that kind of money that they will offer that. And then there are teach grants also, if you are in for the teaching programs. For the students that are here, work study. Work study is a great way, I always tell students, to get a second career without studying for or paying for it. Work study is a job on campus. Let's say you have an 8 a.m. class. Your next class isn't until 2 o'clock. You might be commuting maybe down to Montclair. And gas prices have gone up again, and they're back to $4 a gallon. You really don't want to go for your 8 o'clock class, then drive all the way back home, and then go back down again for your 2 or 3 o'clock class. Get a job on campus. Job on campus will allow you to work up to 15 to 20 hours a week. You submit a timesheet every 2 weeks, you get a paycheck every 2 weeks. And when I say that it's a great way to get another career, talk to anyone in student services, financial aid, admissions, registrar. I will pretty much guarantee you that most of them, when they went to school, worked in those offices as a work-study student, and that's how they caught the bug for student services. And you may come out with a math degree or an English degree, but if you want to get back into those services, that's a way to get experience in those areas, and you can actually apply for jobs entry level in some of these different functions. If you are majoring in biology, you might work in the bio lab and get a little experience there. If you're working in, you're athletically inclined and you are working with the athletic department, sometimes you're doing AV stuff for various productions. There's all sorts of things, and it's a great way to earn that extra money so that you have pocket money and not have to go to mom or dad for gas. Okay. Federal student loans, there are several types of federal student loans. The largest is the federal direct student loan, and there are 2 types within those loan programs. As I mentioned earlier, everyone in this room can get a maximum of $5,500 their first year as a student. There are 2 types. There is subsidized, meaning the interest that accrues on that loan is not your responsibility while you are in school and for any kind of deferment time. That interest is paid for by the taxpayers, me, your parents sitting here, you if you work. It becomes your responsibility once you go into repayment. The other portion is unsubsidized. That loan accrues interest while you are in school, and you are responsible for that interest again when you go into repayment. And the other loan that there is also is Federal Perkins loans. Great loans, a 5% fixed interest rate, also subsidized, no interest accruing. The government was talking about getting rid of that loan. Right now, they're kind of holding off on that. And then there's also Federal Direct Plus loans for parents to take out. And you will see many times in your award letters that part of your package, they will assume that parents are taking plus loans. That is a good program. It is a source that you can go to if you don't have the extra money that you need to cover tuition and fees. This just gives you a little idea. I'm not going to go through all the provisions on it, but the federal direct loan for this year was at 4.29 interest. That interest rate will lock in on that loan for the life of the loan, but each year when you apply for a new loan, you'll be applying at the new interest rate that's set for that year. For the Federal Plus, it's at 6.84%. And if for some reason parents apply for the Plus loan and you are denied because of credit or because of debt-to-income ratio, you can take that rejection from your Plus, bring it to your school. The school will then be able to give your student additional unsubsidized federal direct loan to bring them up to a maximum for the first year of $9,500 rather than $5,500. So keep that in mind, that if you need additional money and we're unable to get Plus, that is another option. This just gives you an idea of the student loan limits that we have. As I said, first year normally it's $5,500 combined. If you have financial need, you get the subsidized portion. If not, you can get the full $55,500 unsub. Yes?
My question is, if you have a child that already went through college and you're paying a parent plus loan, do they take that into consideration?
The question is, if you already have a child in school that you took a plus loan, when you apply for your new one, are they going to take that into consideration? They will be looking at it because federal plus loans require a credit check.
Okay.
Unlike the federal direct loans that your students are taking where there is no credit check required for that
So is
program.
that going to hurt your second child, or is it going to be something
It depends.
that
In one family, it may affect them. Another family, it may not. There's a lot of different things that they're looking at. They're looking at your financial strength. Okay. Any other questions? Okay. State of New Jersey, as I mentioned, tuition aid grant is the largest program that the state offers. You must show financial need. You have to be a U.S. citizen, a New Jersey resident, so must the parent. If parents divorce, one moves out of the state. As long as the student is with the parent that lives in New Jersey, you qualify. You have to be full-time in a program if you're going to a four-year school. You must meet all the state deadlines that I talked about earlier, the October 1st deadline. And if you're at a county college, however, you can get tagged as a part-time student as long as you are taking at least 6 credits or more. Some schools we do not in Sussex County have EOF or the Governor's Urban Scholarship, but into some of the other areas in the state, these are available. NJ STARS, many of you may have heard about NJ STARS. That is if you rank in the top 15% of your graduating class or your junior year class. What NJ STARS 1 will do is it will provide tuition funds only. Fees for the school, any fees that you have to pay, you must pay yourself or through other types of financial aid. You have to be full-time, and you have to maintain a 3.0 or better on your grade point average. Once you go on to STARS 2, you have to graduate from STARS 1 school, and that's at your county college. You must go to your county college to get STARS 1. So you would have to go to Sussex County College. The only time you can go to another county college for NJ STARS program is if the county college here does not offer the programs that you are attempting to register for. You go on to STARS 2, you have to have graduated with 3.25 or better. You may receive up to $2,500 annually. You have to be enrolled full-time. You have to file the FAFSA, again, by their deadlines. And many of the four-year schools, if you go anywhere in New Jersey, you would get STARS 2 if you completed STARS 1. They do many times offer additional scholarships for the STARS recipients. There are also other scholarships that you may be considered for, vocational scholarships for women and minorities. Okay. And when the school gets your financial aid application, we are taking a look at your cost of attendance. Now, cost of attendance takes a lot of things into consideration. We're looking at your tuition and fees. We're looking at room and board. Now, room and board could be if you're living on campus, or if you're going just to a community college, room and board, what is it costing your mom and dad to feed and clothe you while you're home? Okay, we use it as standard average. Books and supplies. Personal expenses, you still need haircuts. You need Kleenex when you catch a cold. Transportation, we do not buy cars with financial aid. But if you have a car and you're commuting, you need gas in that car, you need insurance, you need oil changes occasionally. All of this is budgeted to come up with a cost of attendance. And many times you may see a cost of attendance that is significantly higher than what you're actually paying to the school. For instance, you may see at the county college a budget of approximately $15,000. However, your tuition and fees may only run you $5,000 a year. That's because we're budgeting for all these other things. Okay? There's also other costs that could be related. If you do have childcare costs, if you need special services, special equipment for anyone who's challenged, these types of things can be added. Sometimes computers are required for the program of study you're in. The cost for the computer may be added as well. We take that cost of education, we take the expected family contribution, the number that the FAFSA gives us that they say the family can contribute towards a student's education. We subtract it, and that is your financial need, and that is what they are going to try to meet with financial aid. Now, what that expected family contribution comes up is not always a reality. They may say that you can contribute $5,000, but you don't have $5,000 sitting in a bank account that you can hand to your son or daughter. Okay? So many times, this figure will be made up for you with some of these unsubsidized loans. So we can give you monies that would be to cover financial need, but may also help you come up with that family contribution. And that expected family contribution remains the same regardless of which college you go to. It's combined, it's looking at the strength of the family. So what the student can contribute, what the parent can contribute, and that's how they come up with it. And this is all calculated by looking at these questions and answers that you put on the FAFSA, and it puts it through a formula called federal methodology. And it factors a lot of this information down, okay? It will change. You can have two families with the exact same income. One will get a federal Pell Grant, one will not. Why? Because of lifestyle choices. You may have 4 people in the household, 1 in college, with the same income, but because one maybe saved more money and has younger parents, they may figure, okay, they have more time to save for education, for retirement. So they can use more of the money that they've saved towards a student's education. That's why if you put on your FAFSA, when you put down the age and all, and you put down your birthday, make sure you put the right birthday. Just because you look 45, but you're really 55, it does help. The older you are, the more they take out of the calculation. Okay? If you have 2 in college, okay? This gives you a sample here. Family lives in New Jersey. Married parents, both age 52. Household size of 4, 1 going to college. The adjusted gross income is $120,000. They have $20,000 in assets. The student has no income or assets. The expected family contribution that would come up in that situation is around $20,830. And if we take that same family and put it towards different cost of education, you can see the difference. At a community college, you have a budget of a cost of education about $14,500. With that EFC, you get no financial need-based programs. Okay? You would still be able to get that $5,500 loan. You'd be able to take a PLUS loan, but you wouldn't get any need-based like Pell Grant or tuition aid grant. At a state school, the budget's a little higher, $25,561. They may offer you some scholarship money because there you have a need of $4,731. And then you go to a private school where that budget is over $45,000, you now have over $24,000 in financial need. That is going to stay the same. Okay, that EFC stays the same. Next year when you file, you may now have a second child in college. They are not going to expect that same $20,000 EFC for each student. They're going to take that one and split it in two. Now you only have an EFC of $10,000. So it will change if you have more in college at the same time. Okay? They don't expect you to come up with the same amount of money. Questions? Net price calculator is on every website now of the schools. What that does is allows you to go out and get an idea of what it's going to cost you, the types of financial aid that you might get. It'll give you an estimate. It is based on full-time, first-degree certificate-seeking students. Okay? It's not based on any graduate work. And it can be a little deceiving, especially with the community college schools and the lesser cost schools, because, as I talked about, that budget is including everything. It doesn't just show you what your actual direct costs are. There's also a shopping sheet on many of the websites now, or they may send this to you, that will give you a breakdown of all the types of financial aid that are available. And then to top it all off, you've done all this, you've got your awards, but then you get this dreaded letter that says we're missing information. You wonder why, because you filled out your FAFSA, you did it all well. But you are many times randomly selected to provide federal verification documents. And what this is that the government figures about, let's say 50% of the population must prove to them that everything on the FAFSA is correct. And you are selected for federal verification. You may be selected because you made a blatant error on your FAFSA and they know there's something wrong in the income there. Or they may decide, they've told us that for this year, any student whose fifth digit in the Social Security number is a 7, they're going to select all of those. They've even told us at one conference that there were top secret reasons that they selected for verification. But whatever those are, they don't tell us. But if you are selected for federal verification, you must provide certain documents. Now, if you use the IRS data retrieval, it's very simple. You'll be asked to do a verification worksheet, which is simply your name, address, list all the household members, indicate if you use the IRS data retrieval, or if you were going to provide a copy of your IRS tax return transcript, you sign it, parent signs it, send it into the school. Okay? If you did not use the IRS data retrieval, you will be asked to submit IRS tax return transcripts. Now, the government also got very smart a number of years ago, and they realized there was a program out there called TurboTax, and very other similar programs. And that some people can get very creative with tax returns and put down some very creative figures on their FAFSA. So they decided, no more can you submit your tax returns. You must go out on the IRS website and request a tax return transcript. They want it directly from the IRS. You also used to be able to go out and print them yourselves, but because of some compromises that happened with the IRS website, people's identity being stolen, you now can only request it by mail. And that takes 5 to 10 days to get that form. So what I'm trying to tell you is that it is very important to the students in the room that when you get mail from your colleges, if you're given portal accounts, email, you must check these regularly. because you may have that estimated award letter, but if you're selected for federal verification, that aid does not become real until you complete this process. And you want to make sure that this is all done before school starts and that your bill is paid by your due date, because many of the schools will charge you late fees if you don't have it in. So please check your mail regularly, check your email, check your portal accounts to make sure that if there's something that is required, that you submit that documentation. If you are not lucky enough to be selected by the federal government, the state government will oblige you, and they may select you for state verification. If that happens, you must provide many of these same types of forms, but you must mail it to the state of New Jersey, not to the school. Okay, federal verification, the school collects all the documents. State verification, the Department of HESA collects those documents, and you must mail it or scan it in and send it to them through their website. And you must do it by their deadlines. HESA is the only one that has very strict deadlines in terms of filing and submitting documentation. Okay? Advice, make sure that the schools have all the documents that you need. Make sure you keep copies of the documents. Never, ever, ever send through the last and only copy that you have to any school or to the State Department. Because again, sometimes things get misplaced, they don't reach the schools, they don't come back to you, so you don't want to give your only copy. Always keep copies. Look on the websites, make sure that you have the contact information, and don't be afraid to ask questions. Your high school guidance counselors are wonderful. They can help you. The individual financial aid offices, yes, some of them are very crazy. They're busy, they have lots of students, it's difficult sometimes to get through to them. But check their websites. They may have access through email, they may have access through phone, you can make appointments, some will take walk-ins. Remember these deadlines. October 1st is the latest you should apply if you want to apply for every type of aid that is out there, especially with the state. Now, once you are a student, if you are eligible for New Jersey state aid, going forward the following year, you must file by June 1st in order to get your New Jersey state aid. If you miss the June 1st deadline in your second year of school, you lose out on state aid for the entire year. So it's very important that you file. A good rule of thumb, think about when you file your tax return, think about filing your FAFSA. If the state requests additional information, it may not be their state verification, but they may request documents. You need to send them into them. For the fall semester, if you don't send it into them by November 15th, you lose your aid for the fall semester with the state of New Jersey. So you've got to read everything through, make sure that you hit those deadlines. Spring deadline, if you do miss the fall deadline for some reason, and you needed to submit additional documentation to them, you have till March 15th to get it into the spring. Okay? But again, October 1st is first time around. Don't file any later than that. Going forward, don't ever file any later than June 1st if you want to be considered for New Jersey state aid. Some of the scholarship sites, you should never, ever have to pay for a scholarship application. If you go to a website and they ask you for a credit card number, a bank account number, run away screaming. That is a farce. It is not a legitimate website for scholarships. Scholarships should always be free. And these are some of the ones that you can go to look up scholarships. There really are all these crazy scholarships. How many of you heard of the Duct Tape Scholarship? No? Duct Tape offers scholarships for the most inventive prom outfit made with duct tape. There are tall scholarships. Students, I think males who are 6'1" or 6'2" or over, and I think girls that are 5'10" and taller. You have to write an essay on what it means to you to be tall. Okay? There really are these scholarships out there. Okay? You want to check around for different places, okay? The websites we told you about, you want to check if there are camper-administered payment plans that might help you with making payments for school, campus employment, federal work study I mentioned. There is many times also a work program on campus that is done outside of the financial aid realm that you can do. If you're living on campus, you can be a resident assistant, where you would get free room and board if you work in the campus dormitory assisting with the students. Usually that's an upper level. Student ambassador programs are on campus, where they will give you a certain number of tuition credits free if you work with the admissions office, the student services office. You'd be running tours for new students coming in, different things, tour guides, and then look for internships and co-ops. Okay? Websites that you should know, federalstudentaid.gov will give you additional information about all the programs. If you need to register for selective service, that's the website where you would do it, and HESA.org. Talk to people in the know, the guidance counselors. You have wonderful guidance counselors here, I can tell by the information they put together tonight. They will help guide you. They can call. I will make available to the high school guidance counselors, they have my direct line, that if they ever have a question they can't answer, they can call and ask me. I don't care whether you're coming to Sussex or not. I'd love you to come to Sussex, but if not, that's okay. They can come to me for questions. You want to check for scholarship opportunities. Your local banks that you belong to, your churches, synagogues, local organizations. I know when I was in high school, I got a VFW scholarship. My father was not a member of the VFW. No one in my family was. The requirements were simply that you have a 3.0 or better GPA and that you live in the town that the VFW was from. Look to your parents' employers. Many times they offer scholarships. Unions. Okay? All these places you can look to see if you can apply for scholarship. And crazy as it sounds, your medicine and your kitchen cabinets. Why I say that? Tylenol offers scholarships. Colgate-Palmolive. You think about any major you're in, any product that is used within that major. Check the websites. You will be amazed at how many times there are scholarships that you can apply for. And it is really true that many times students don't apply for scholarships and they're sitting out there.
I want to say that every year we have students who do not apply for scholarships. I have local businessmen and community members coming here. How come no one at High Point applied? There are 3 scholarships and only 2 people applied from another school district. Or we have 5 scholarships available for High Point students and only 5 applied. So by default, all 5 students will get the scholarship. So they have to apply. We're literally handing them the scholarship, telling them to go into Naviance. We have our local scholarship application we give out to them in January. They go through the English classes. We get generally a little bit more than half the class. So they really need to take the time to fill out the scholarship application. And do not pay for any scholarship application. I agree with you, but they have to fill it out. They have to be in it to win it. Thanks.
That's it. Many times there are scholarships, and, as Linda said, it's, how can I put it? Students won't apply for these things. They don't want to take the time to write the essay. Many times that essay can be the same essay for several different types of scholarships. I remember one year at prior school I worked at, we had a scholarship for Russian students. All they had to do to apply for the scholarship, and we had about $5,000 that year, was to submit by email the name of the relative that was Russian and what Russian province they came from. That's all they had to do. We had a lot of Russian students at this scholarship, at this school. We figured, okay, we're going to get quite a few applicants. We ended up, we got 2 that only bothered to apply. We had to spend the money. So guess what? Well, we thought we were going to be giving out about $500 each in scholarship. 2 students walked away with $2,500 apiece. Okay? I had another student. I worked at the medical and dental school many years ago. There was a scholarship program that went out to the top students in the class. They had to write an essay of 250 words, fill out an application, and submit a picture. Now, this was at a time when interest rates were through the roof on loans. These students were taking loans that were at 17.5% interest. And this one student came in and he looked at me and he says, oh, I got the scholarship application in the mail. Can you tell me a little bit about it? I said, well, they're very generous. They give up to $10,000 a year, and this is at a time when the medical school and dental school was costing about $25,000 a year. And I said, you know, you fill the application out, and it's renewable for 4 years. This is great. And he looked at me and says, oh, I don't know if it's worth it. And I looked at him like he had two heads. $10,000 at 17.5% interest that he would have been taking in a loan, that he's now going to get free money. Why would you not want to do this? Take the time to do it. When you apply to the individual schools, once you get there, many times there are foundations that they have that offer individual scholarships that you can apply for each year, each semester. Don't get discouraged if the first time you apply, you don't get anything. Just as we've said, you can have 1 year where there may be a scholarship that's for bio majors. And that year they get 20 students that apply and they only have 2 scholarships. The next year they get 2 students that apply for the bio scholarship. And both those students walk away with it. Those scholarships that are offered from the schools, sometimes they're based on financial needs. Sometimes they're based on academics. You have to have a certain GPA. Many other times, you just have to apply. There's no minimum requirements, and you may be lucky enough to get a scholarship. You may say, well, it's only a $250 scholarship. How many of the students have part-time jobs? Okay. What are you getting? Minimum wage? Somewhere around $8.65, maybe $10 an hour? Think about it. If you take an hour to fill out a scholarship application, and you now get a $250 scholarship from that application, how long at your part-time job would it have taken you to earn $250 clear? Okay? You're talking a lot of hours, where now only for taking an hour to fill out an application, you just made $250. Okay? It is worth doing it. Take the time to do it. Okay? Now that you think you've got this, you probably glazed over thinking about this whole process. And you're thinking, well, no, maybe I've got this down pat. Well, it's all going to change. Okay? For the 16-17 school year, when you fill out your applications after January 1st, you're going to be filling it out with your 2015 income information because the government uses what they call prior year income. But now they've decided, because they want a little bit more accurate information, and to make it a little easier, especially for those parents that have businesses and file taxes later and everything else, they're going to go with something called PPY, which is prior year income. So what does that mean for you? It means that for the 16-17 school year, the government is going to base your eligibility on your 2015 income. But then for the 17-18 school year, they're going to PPY. They are again going to base your eligibility on the 2015 income year. Now that works out real great if in 2015 you lost your job, you were living on unemployment, you're going to look poor for 2 years. But if in 2015 you both had really great jobs, you made $250,000 a year, and then in 2016 you both got laid off and you've been struggling on unemployment, what's going to happen? That's not a real clear picture. We do not know yet exactly how everything is going to work. The government has not released everything, but what we do suspect is that they will continue to allow us to do something called professional judgment. So that even if your income was one amount in 2015, if you had a significant change in 2016, they will allow us to use that new income. But we haven't gotten that. The PPY now will allow you to file earlier. Now, going forward for the 17-18 school year, you won't have to wait until January 1 of 2017. You will actually be able to file your FAFSA by October 1st, 2016. So there are going to be a lot of changes in procedure. You will probably see a lot of confusion in the financial aid offices. We will be running 2 and possibly 3 years worth of financial aid all at the same time. So you're going to have to be patient with some of us going forward. But these types of things are coming, these changes. It should make it easier to do the FAFSA, because when you do it going 2 years back, you'll be using that IRS data retrieval. Your taxes should long be filed, and everyone should be able to access that. But this is what you're going to see going forward. That is basically what I have to offer for tonight. Does anyone have any questions on anything? Yes? The question is, when you have 2 students in college at the same time, do you have to do 1 FAFSA or 2? You would have to do 2 FAFSAs. You're going to do 1 for each student. But the good thing about it is that when you do the first one, when you get to that confirmation page, one of the things that are on there is that it asks you, do you have another student that you need to do a FAFSA for? And you click on that, and it will basically move over all the information that is common to both applications, like the parent's information, and you would just have to fill in for the student. Okay? Any other questions? Yes?
Were you saying that the juniors graduating class in 2017 will be using my 2015 income?
Yes. The question is, for the juniors who will start in 17-18, will they be looking at the 2015 income? And that is yes.
No, we don't. We should do by October 1st then, just to
I'm sorry, I can't quite hear you.
If I'm a junior parent, so best thing to do it by October 1st to get this finished.
Correct. For the junior parents in the room, you are going to file the 17-18 FAFSA, and that one you can begin filing as early as October 1st, 2016. Yes?
If we're to invite you back again, and there's a lot of junior parents in the audience, when's the best time for us to invite you back so we can have the junior parents come back so they'll know about the changes and the best time to file?
We are waiting to hear from the government exactly how this is going to work. They've kind of thrown everything out there. They haven't given us the details yet. I assume by January we will have this information. So if you want to have me come back, say maybe around March, April, somewhere in there, we might be able to do something then.
So for the junior parents that are in the audience, I will invite Diane to come back in the spring so that you'll be ready for October 1st, because this time next year will not be good. Okay?
And one other thing I'd like to offer just to anyone who is here, especially for your seniors now, if you need help with the FAFSA, the one thing that we do at Sussex County Community College, I run FAFSA workshops every Wednesday evening, starting in about mid-February from 6 to 7, and Friday mornings from 10 to 11. You do not have to be coming to Sussex County College, but if you need help doing the FAFSA, you come to these workshops. We literally sit there and hold your hand. You bring your tax returns with you, and we will help you complete the FAFSA process from start to finish. So I'd like to make that offer to anyone who wants to do that. As I said, I run them from mid-February on through probably the middle of September for next year. Okay, and we'll have more information on the website, and I also send it to the schools so they can send that information home. Any other questions? We're good? You're all glazed over. I know it's a very boring topic. But I thank you all for coming, and I wish you all the very best of luck.